Hello and welcome to the intro for my advanced course. I'm so excited you're here. Glad you made it through my main course and hopefully you had a very successful journey. There's 10 things that I want to remind you of. I mentioned some in my course, I've mentioned some on my YouTube, but I just want to run through these 10 things real quickly to give you a checklist to make sure that you are looking at all of these things for your child and nothing has been missed. This is of course not an exhaustive list, but a list of 10 of the top things that I come across in my career and want to make sure that is addressed by every parent. And there'll be some links below in the description for more information if needed. So let's get into it. First thing I need you to know, I've talked about it so many times, but the hearing. Please make a hearing appointment for your child. The newborn hearing screening is not enough. A bunch of the clients that I've worked with, they pass their newborn hearing screening as a child, as an infant in the NICU, right? Or when they're born, but they develop that hearing problem later in life. Lots of ear infections, maybe even an overproduction of wax that's blocking their ability to hear, and it's a big deal. So please make that hearing appointment and just roll that out so that no one has to worry about it, okay? So that would be through your primary care physician to an audiologist to make that appointment. The audiologist appointments, they typically go like this. The child is brought into a room with the parent and there's the audiologist and the child is asked to put headphones on their ears, and the kids usually don't like the headphones. They're really big and bulky, and for some kids it can be a little bit of a stressful experience. So definitely talk to your doctor and ask the best recommendations for how to make this appointment go as smoothly as possible for your child. Number 2, nutrition. Nutrition really is a big piece in all humans' learning experience. The better nutrition you have, the better day you're going to have, and the better ability you'll have to learn. So make sure that your child is getting a well-balanced nutrition, avoiding too much sugar, too much food dyes, and things like that. I'll put a link below to some research about child nutrition. Here's a side note about something that I've learned about milk. A lot of my clients say, my child doesn't want to eat real food, he's 2, but all he wants is the milk. And I say, okay, I've read that the milk has a lot of calcium, a lot of iron, and that curbs hunger. And so the child's less interested in food because they are pretty full, basically, from the milk. So I encourage parents to water down the milk so that the child is still feeling like, okay, I'm getting the milk, it's comforting, I'm used to it, but they still feel hungry and are more willing to eat other kinds of food. I'll put a link below for that. I learned that along the way, and it's been a good, successful process. When the parents start to water down the milk, the child typically becomes more interested in other foods. Number 3, sleep. Sleep is important for all humans too, right? Nutrition, sleep, those are just essential things. I have seen this in my career more often than not when a child is really struggling to get a good night's sleep and get a good nap during the day too. When that's not happening, then the speech therapy sessions are not going well and learning and progress is just really slow. There are things like sleep disorders for adults and for children, and sleep problems are very common actually in children with autism. It doesn't mean that your child has autism if they have a sleep problem, but it's just something that often co-occurs. So sleep's so important. I'm putting some links below to a fantastic YouTube channel that I follow. It's a sleep specialist and she gives really good advice for sleep. Check that out and make sure that you are doing the best that you can to help your child get good sleep, and hopefully good sleep for you too. Number 4 is to increase peer interaction. I talk about this on my YouTube and just want to make sure that you are reminded that this is a really big key factor. In a lot of cases with kids and families that I've worked with, I am doing everything I can in speech therapy, and mom is doing everything she can with all the speech therapy techniques, but it's just not enough. And then when I encourage the mom to be brave and get out there and go to the the special library reading days and a mommy and me group, or go to the Sunday school at church and let your child actually stay in the Sunday school. Basically just to get out there and get the kid around other kids. When that finally happens or happens more often, whoa, I see an amazing improvement in those kids that weren't getting those socialization and now are. Something clicks in their brain when they see other kids talking to each other, talking to their parents, and getting their needs met because of their speech. All of a sudden they think, oh, look at that, I can do that too. I want to do that too. So I've seen that be really successful, and I hope that you feel encouraged to get out there and get your child socialized if that's not happening already. Next, I want to talk about decreasing binkies, okay? The binkies are the pacifiers. People call them different things. Really, I encourage families to start pulling away from using those after about 12 months because of a few things. One, it's really not great for their teeth. Hopefully we can avoid the need of braces later on in life because when the child sucks repetitively on an item in their mouth, even their thumb, it can change the actual formation of the teeth and the gums and the entire structure of the mouth. That can, one, like just affect the way the teeth look, but also the way that speech will sound later in life. Because if teeth are messed up, there can be things like a lisp and other things like that that can't be totally avoided if the teeth are just kind of not straight, not in the positions that they should be. So that's one, is the dentition. But two is when the child is sucking on a binky or a thumb, their mouths are literally plugged, right? They have something in their mouth preventing them from talking. So it kind of makes them a little lazy sometimes. When they could say milk, they're just going to point and maybe make a sound because there's something in their mouth, right? And more often than not, us as adults just trying to get through the day, we just go, oh yeah, he wants the milk. Okay, here you go, moving on. But we need that child to take that binky out and actually say the word milk to get the milk, right? We got to challenge them a little bit. Kids get really attached to those and it can be really hard. But I encourage you, out of sight, out of mind. If you hide the binky and it is not visible, a lot of the kids will forget about it, right? I think it's okay to have the binky during nap time, during sleep time, but during the day, as much as possible, try to avoid the child becoming dependent on the binky because, again, then their mouth is just plugged. And that is not great for a child who needs to be talking more. Number 6, decrease screen time. I am a huge advocate for decreasing screen time. The research that is coming out about screens and the effect on young brains is just staggering. It's really nothing but negative stuff is coming out of screen time for kids. They don't need it, and it just turns their brains into more like an ADHD brain, where it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. If you've heard of that, it just means it makes the brain have a harder time focusing, and they can get kind of hyper, and they get kind of cranky too when they've been on the tablets too long. So psychologists are recommending no more than a total of 1 to 2 hours of screen time per day. And that includes all types of screens. So that's the TV, the phone, and the tablet. All of those things. Really, ideally, the child's not being exposed to that at all before preschool. But if it's already a part of their life, don't beat yourself up about it too much. Work on decreasing it. Let that tablet battery die. If it's dead, then, oh, sorry, it's dead. Oh no, or hide it. Again, out of sight, out of mind. Just start decreasing the time over a week until it's really not very much. I personally recommend no more than 15 minutes of screen time at a time, because after that, I notice that children tend to just get real cranky after 15 minutes of staring at a screen, and then you try and pull it away and get them to do something else. It really can be tough after that. And again, it's not social. It's staring at something and not interacting with a person. So avoid it as much as you can. If you are one of those parents who have totally kept away from screen time, bravo, super impressed, way to go. Speaking of being social, number 7, I want to talk about if your child is not very social, not interacting with adults, not interacting with kids so much, based on what's appropriate for their age, and you just notice, compared to other kids their age, they're just kind of in their own little world. I talked about it in my first course. Then that might be an indicator that something else is going on, and you should talk to your primary care physician, your pediatrician, about, I don't think that my child is interacting very much. I'm not getting that eye contact, not getting those smiles and giggles and all of that. And talk to your doctor about those things that are going on, and hopefully you guys can rule out autism. Number 8, this is one that I really haven't talked much about on my program or on my YouTube, but I come across a lot. It's children who are hypersensitive to textures, sounds, tastes even, or maybe even undersensitive. So hypersensitive, like super sensitive, like super aware, super bothered maybe, and undersensitive, like not aware, just really not picking up on those kinds of sounds and textures and tastes. And so if you're noticing, wow, like my kid ran into the chair and did not react to the pain, didn't even seem to notice, that's undersensitive. If you notice, my child is super sensitive to clothing. Every type of material bothers them. The tags on clothing, they get so irritated. They won't wear socks. They don't want to wear any clothes. That is hypersensitive. So if you're noticing these kinds of behaviors, including sounds and tastes, covering their ears or hating a whisper sound or always yelling, things like that, those are signs that there's something going on with your child's sensory system. And that falls under more of the profession of occupational therapy. They specialize in sensory integration disorders, is what it's called. And they are really talented and trained in working with these kinds of undersensitivity or hypersensitivity, and helping a child become more regulated is the word that we use in therapy, which just means more calm, more relaxed, more comfortable in their world when there's still loud sounds, uncomfortable textures, and things like that. So if you notice, wow, that does sound like my kid, I'll put a link below all about sensory integration disorder. I hope that this doesn't freak you out, but if it kind of sounds like your kid, then look into an evaluation with an occupational therapist. 2 more things, guys. Number 9, if your child is having trouble eating, as in like swallowing, or they're pocketing food, they're gagging on food, they're drooling excessively when they're chewing and eating, that's an indication that something's not going right and could be a real issue. So definitely talk to your pediatrician, and it may mean a evaluation with a speech therapist, ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor, occupational therapist, the whole team, to really determine what's going on with the child's eating system. Why are they having those problems? Please don't ignore those kinds of problems, as they can be, they should be addressed early, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, number 10, guys. Here we are at the 10th thing that I want you to be aware of, and this is emotional wellness. For you, I want you to be aware of where you're at. I just gave you a really big, long list of things that hopefully did not worry you too much and freak you out, but gave you an action plan, a list of things to be aware of, and maybe none of those are concerns right now, and that's my hope for all of you. Number 10, please just check in with yourself and make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because your child needs you to be well and whole. So make sure that you are reaching out to a support group of family members, loved ones, and friends. And if you don't have that, then make that a goal for yourself. You deserve support. You deserve to not be alone in this. And I wish that I could be there in person for you, but I'm honored to be here over the internet, and I'm excited to head into lesson number 1, where we're going to get talking about some really exciting things in this next phase of the journey for you and your child. Thanks so much. I'll see you over there.